Welcome to our ABBA magazine show, in which we will show you the highlights of the first two games in each of the semi-final playoff duels. The eyes of the region were on the Belgrade matchup, in which Crvena Zvezda, of course, had the home court advantage over their fiercest rival Partizan. While the same goes for Buducnost, who played their first two home games against Cedevita Zagreb. In the end of the show, we will, of course, show you the best 5 actions of this playoff semi-final first two duels. In Buducnost and Cedevita, and the home team had much to prove, as the visitors were twice the better opponent in the previous two encounters during the regular season. Miro Bilan was the first player to score in this game, while at the other end it was Buducnost's Croatian center Darko Planinic who got them going with 4 straight points. Cedevita was then in front by 11-7 as Luka Babic scored the first 3-pointer of the game, but soon the home team was only behind by 2 points when Robert Rikic was successful. Still, Cedevita was ahead for most of the first quarter, courtesy of Luka Babic and his good shooting night. After the first 10 minutes, the result was 23-20, set by Tomislav Zubcic. Cedevita reached their highest lead of 5 points when the same player was successful again, and the home team's coach Igor Jovovic was forced to take an early timeout. And soon after that, Tomislav Zubcic added another 3, and the visitors had a 7-point advantage. But after that, Buducnost also started hitting from distance, as Vladimir Dasic managed to close the gap to 4 points. The home team started to score from counter-attacks, and when Vitkovac managed to do so, the Montenegrin champion was only trailing Cedevita by 2. Soon after that, the teams were equal on 32 points as Dasic was successful again, but that was followed by 7 unanswered Cedevita points. By half-time, J.R. Reynolds managed to cut the deficit to 5 as he made it 44-39. The second half started with Cedevita equaling their highest lead of 7 points as Miro Bilan was successful. And soon that rose to 9 points as Rokolini Ukic hit twice from distance, and that was already Cedevita's 7th 3-pointer. Buducnost answered with 4 consecutive points, and a bit later they had managed to close the gap to just a point when Ivanovic scored. When the same player scored both times from the three-point line, Buducnost took their first lead of the game after completing a 10-0 run. That said, it was the visitors who finished in front after 30 minutes when Marko Toma scored another 3 for them. And as the lead was the minimal one, it was no surprise that Buducnost managed to take it immediately after starting the last 10 minutes. But it was short-lived as Miro Bilan scored. The guests were in front by 4 again. It prompted the home team to react, and by the time Suacehovic scored from distance, they themselves held a 4-point advantage, which was of course their highest of the game, with a little over 4 minutes remaining on the clock. Less than 2 minutes to go, and the teams were only separated by a point when Tomas scored. And 76 seconds before time, Buducnost held a 3-point lead as Savovic was proving hard to stop. But half a minute later, the teams were equal again as Marko Toma scored from distance to make it 78 apiece. 15 seconds till the end, Savovic was keeping his cool from the free-throw line, after which Buducnost was in front by 2. But only 6 seconds later, Fran Pilepic scored what was potentially a game-winning 3-pointer. But the home team managed to put Savovic to the free-throw line again, with only 2 seconds remaining on the clock. Again, he rose up to the challenge and scored both times to give Buducnost a dramatic first game win, as the guests couldn't produce a shot in the 2 seconds remaining. In the end, the visiting team managed to lose a game in which they had scored 12 times for 3.
Iscrpan meč protiv tima koji je veoma iskusan i izuzetno kvalitetan.
It was a tough duel against an experienced and quality team. You could see for yourselves we had to chase the opponent for almost the entire game. We had big problems controlling the rebounds, especially in the first half, as they are big and strong. But we believed in ourselves and kept our cool, and in the end won the match, and now we have to quickly forget about it.
Srcem, što se kaže, a ne gubili glavu i na kraju dobili jedan jako težak meč koji moramo što prije da zaboravimo.
Mislim da smo utakmicu sami izgubili, gdje smo primili dosta glupih.
I think we have ourselves to blame for losing this match. We allowed too many easy points, especially Reynolds at the end of the first half. These points are very important. We need to make less mistakes if we are to win the series.
Moramo popraviti ako mislimo pobijediti, pogotovo sutra.
A packed Pioneer Hall was the venue of the other semi-final between Crvena Zvezda and Partizan, and the place was of course rocking with excitement as there was so much on the line between the old rivals. Crvena Zvezda opened the game almost perfectly, escaping to an 8-0 lead before Nikola Milutino finally managed to get the black and white going. It was also the start of Partizan's immediate comeback to the match, as Pavlovic's 6 successive points meant the guests had closed the gap to just 2. And then it was Blazic's turn to score 6 in a row as Crvena Zvezda regained their highest lead of 8. Soon the home team was in front by 9 points when Luka Mitrovic made his offensive rebound count. When Charles Jenkins scored twice, Crvena Zvezda had a double-digit lead for the first time in the game, and after the first 10 minutes, 11 points separated the teams. At the start of the second quarter, Sasha Pavlovic scored from a difficult position and managed to draw fouls well, before Mike Zirbes, the German, equals Zvezda's highest lead of 13. Josh Akonyon got his first playing minutes in the second period, and when he scored his first points, the deficit was 8. It wasn't long, though, before the home team were 12 points to the good, again when Stefan Jovic scored his first points. Partizan did start to play a bit better, but soon they forced to play without their influential center Nikola Milutino, who received a painful hit to the eye by Jaka Blažić. And when Dragan Milosavljević scored, Partizan was trailing Crvena Zvezda by 7, and that was also the margin come the end of the first half, when Mitrovic made it 38-31. Partizan then opened the second half well, as Edo Muric scored twice in a row to close the gap to just 3 points. But Crvena Zvezda replied immediately and was soon 8 points to the good again when Charles Jenkins made it 45-37. Then it was Partizan's turn to again come within 4 points after Milosavljević made good use of Mačvan's pass. And when Mihailo Andrić scored 4 in a row, Partizan was trailing the hosts by 3 points. And a bit later, by just 2 points, when Josh Akonyon made it 51-49. Then it was time for Nikola Kalinic to shine, as he scored 5 important successive points. But the teams were only separated by 3 points after 30 minutes, as Akonyon managed to score for 3 from a difficult position. Right at the start of the last quarter, Partizan closed the gap to just a point after Milosavljević was the first player to score in it, but that again prompted Crvena Zvezda to react, and quickly the hosts escaped to a 6-point lead when Jenkins managed to score and draw a foul as well. Milan Mačvan was playing an important role for the visitors, as he managed a double-double of 12 points and as many rebounds, but it wasn't enough to close the gap on the hosts, as Crvena Zvezda was in front by 8 points again when Boban Marjanović scored for only the second time in the match. 2 minutes before time, Jenkins contributed another 3 points, and the game was all but over, as Crvena Zvezda took a 12-point lead. Partizan managed to cut it to 7 points, but that was as far as they've got, and it was fitting that Charles Jenkins be the last player to score in the game, as he was its best shooter with 19 points to his name in the end.
Po povreda oka Milutinova od strane Blažića je za nas bio veliki hendikep i zna se da je on jedan od 2-3 osnovna glavna igrača i praktično jedini centar.
The injury to Nikola Milutinov was a big blow to us, as he's almost our only center, so we needed to modify our game. We have played Crvena Zvezda 4 times this season and lost 3 players in the 3 losses we had, and twice it was Jaka Blažić inflicting the injuries. Personally, I think there are very few coincidental injuries in basketball.
Znači, slučajno glavni igrači, mada ja lično mislim da ima vrlo malo slučajnih povreda u košarci.
Well, we're all here to play and fight, and the injury was purely incidental. They also play rough sometimes, and we're not crying about it. We'll go game by game and see what happens in the end.
Težak meč večeras. Startovali smo dobro u odbrani.
It was a tough game. We started well in defense and continued well in offense, but we knew Partizan would do everything to win, as they're an experienced outfit who is also in very good form. We have good reactions when we needed them, and were able to shoot some important threes in the end, and in the end we were able to win.
Pogađali šute za 3 prodorom, rešavali situacije i dali bitne poene i tako na kraju rešili meč u našu korist.
More than 4,000 people turned up in Morača, which was a slightly bigger number than the night before, and they have witnessed a good opening of the game from their team, as Buducnost scored the first 5 points of the match before Nemanja Gordić broke the deadlock for the visitors. Then Suat Šehović managed to score twice from distance, as Buducnost was stamping their authority through an early 9-point lead. The unstoppable Šehović had scored 11 points by that time, as Buducnost took a 10-point lead. But having said that, Cedevita did respond in time and was soon back in the game, as they've closed the first period with a 12-4 run and were only trailing the Hosts by 2 after the first 10 minutes. The teams were separated by a point at the start of the second period, when Luka Babic was successful, and soon after that the teams were level on 32 points when Mario Delaš capitalized on a nice assist by Stanko Barac. Ivan Paunic then made sure Buducnost was back in front by 3 when he hit from distance, but Cedevita closed the half stronger and was able to get in front for the first time in the match after Bilan's free throw. Nothing between the teams after the first 20 minutes, when first Reynolds scored, but was pegged back by Marko Tomas, as the result stood at 39 apiece. Roko Leniukic was the first player to score after the interval, as Cedevita took their second lead of the game. But the home team was firing on all cylinders from distance when Subotic scored his first and the team's 8th three-pointer already. But Cedevita's response was swift, as they scored 8 unanswered points and opened up a 6-point lead. But at that point, the visiting team made some unnecessary mistakes and false decisions, allowing the home team to take the initiative again and put together a 10-3 run, with Darko Planinic quickly contributing 5, and Buducnost was back in front, albeit by a single point. The home team held a 2-point lead before entering the decisive 10 minutes of the game, as Robert Rikic made it 61-59. The home team was quick to take a 5-point lead at the start of the last quarter, as Reynolds rounded up a 9-1 partial for them. Stanko Barac was Cedevita's best player in this period, as he managed to close the gap to 3 points. But the visitors were having a poor defensive display, as Vitkovac had no problems taking Buducnost to a 6-point lead. Less than 4 minutes before the end, J.R. Reynolds scored his 3rd three-pointer, and the home team was 8 points to the good. It seemed they were cruising towards an easy victory when Suacehovic scored another 3 for them to match their highest lead of the game of 10 points. And then Nemanja Gordic had a good spell towards the end, but it was all a little too late as there were only 7 seconds remaining on the clock when he managed to close the gap to 5 points. In the end, Buducnost had scored 11 3-pointers, which was 6 more than the opponent, who now trails the series by 2-0.
Imamo psihološku prednost.
Well, we do have the edge now after the 2 games in which we have performed swell, especially in this second match. We approached the series like we should, as all the 12 players had the same thing in mind. Nobody was thinking about anything else than the success of the team. The referees have allowed a tough physical game in the last quarter, and we haven't adapted to the situation well, and there was the edge of the home team. If we will repeat a soft performance like this again, we'll have no chance in the series.
Ukoliko ćemo odigrati mekano, kao što smo odigrali zadnju četvrtinu, odnosno ukoliko nećemo imati adaptaciju na jedan takav kriterij igre, naše šanse su apsolutno nikakve.
Crvena Zvezda had a win advantage before hosting Partizan for the second time in the sold-out Pioneer Hall. Nikola Milutino was able to play in this one in spite of picking up an eye injury the previous night. Jaka Blažić was the first player to score as he hit from distance, and at the other end it was Sasha Paulovic. When Milenko Tepic scored his first points, Partizan took their first lead as well, and it was also a start of a 10-0 run from the visitors. And when Milutino scored 4 in a row, Partizan took an 18-9 lead. When Nikola Kalinic scored for 3 in the last second of the first period, his team was trailing the visitors by 22-17. Partizan was looking really good and was also the first to score in the second period as Dragan Milosavljevic dunked to make it 24-17. And then the next 4 points were scored by Mike Cirbes as the German made sure Crvena Zvezda was behind by only 3 points. Soon after that, the home team managed to take the lead for the first time in the game as Luka Mitrovic made his offensive rebound count. But that was short-lived, as when Josh Akonyon scored his first points, Partizan was back in the lead by 4. The lead was soon 8 points as Edo Muric scored from a nice pass from Milan Mačvan. And then the home team managed to score twice from distance, but was still trailing the visitors by 5 when Nemanja Tangubic was successful. Muric was also the last player to score in the first half, as Partizan's lead again rose to 7. The first thing in the second half was Partizan escaping to a double-digit lead for the first time, as the black and white quickly scored the first 5 points after the interval, and in fact the run continued until the guests were 14 points to the good. Crvena Zvezda needed almost 3 minutes to get going in the third period when Nikola Kalinic broke the deadlock with a 3. Then another 3 minutes passed before they scored their second, when Jenkins scored to make it 51-40. But the home team was struggling defensively, and Partizan made good use of that and was in front by 15 when Mačvan scored from distance. The teams were separated by 10 points before entering the final 10 minutes of the game after Marcus Williams had scored a 3, and it was his first and his 5th attempt. The home team then opened the last quarter well, scoring the first 4 points to close the gap to 6. After 2 minutes, Partizan managed to score for the first time in the last period, as Milutino made it 60-52. Then Williams found Cirbes very nicely indeed, and the latter dunked to again cut the deficit to 6. It felt like Crvena Zvezda could get back in the game after Williams scored another 3, as the gap shrunk to just a point. Well, that was followed by 5 successive points by Josh Akonyon, and Partizan was back to a 6-point lead. Less than 3 minutes before the end, Dragan Milosavljević managed to score from a very difficult position. 90 seconds to go and Crvena Zvezda managed to close the gap again to just 3 points when Jenkins scored his first 3. With half a minute remaining on the clock, the same player drove to the basket and made sure only a point separated the teams, and Zvezda even had a chance to win after Partizan had squandered their last offense. But Nikola Milutinov was able to block Blažic's attempt, and 7 seconds before time, Milenko Tepic scored only once from the free throw line, but Mačvan then managed to pick up the loose ball, and Partizan was able to win an all-important away game in the series.
Susret je bio veoma kvalitetan i veoma težak i naporan za obe ekipe.
Well, the game was full of quality and tough for both teams, of course. Congratulations to my players. They were able to endure a harsh atmosphere and win in such an important match. I've said we are in for a long series and we're still far from any kind of success.
Ja sam rekao da nas čeka duga serija, daleko od toga da je ovom utakmicom bilo šta rešeno.
Partizan je koristio jedan takav naš.
Partizan was able to take advantage of our bad approach and now has additional confidence coming from an away win like that. Our confidence was additionally cut short due to trouble with rebounding.
Za meč koji se igra u gostima, velikih problema u tom skoku, što je i to neko samopouzdanje naše smanjivalo.
So, 2 tight wins for Buducnost in both encounters against Cedevita mean the Montenegrin champion is only 1 win away from reaching the final of the playoff. In the matchup between both Belgrade giants, the series is tied as Partizan manages to reach an all-important break. And let's take a look who's our MVP of the first 2 games. The most valuable player is Milan Mačvan, who reached a playing innings of 28 in the second game, where he was able to score 14 points and add as many as 17 rebounds. He also added 1 assist and 2 steals as well. And for the end of the show, let's take a look at the best 5 actions of the first 4 games. At number 5, a nice collective action from Partizan, finished off by Dragan Milosavljević with a dunk. And it wasn't an easy one as well. At number 4, we have another Partizan action. Sasha Pavlović, from a very difficult position, he managed to score and draw a foul as well. Number 3, we have another dunk, this time from Nemanja Tangubić. A very nice finish indeed by the young Serbian. This is our number 3. At number 2, we have another dunk. It is also from the Crvena Zvezda. Nice pass by Marcus Williams. And Mike Cedevita was, of course, very happy about this dunk. Not we can say about the Partizan players in this case. And at number 1, it must be this action, a block from Nikola Milutinov, a winning block actually, and over Jakub Blažić nonetheless, who injured him a day before with a poke in the eye. It was a game-winning block, and it is our first choice from the first 4 games of the semi-final of the playoff. So, the series continues on Saturday with the same schedule, which means the game from Zagreb starts at 18:30, and the one from Belgrade at 9 p.m. in the evening. Be sure to tune in. It's going to be some exciting basketball played as we march towards the final of this season. And that's all for today. Join us again next time, which will be very soon. Bye-bye.